Thank you for joining us this Friday evening. I'm meteorologist Carley Gomez, and we are tracking the first of two storm systems set to arrive in a matter of hours. Your Saturday storm, that's going to start coming in, first making its way onshore in the early morning hours, but isn't really expected to make the bigger impacts till we get closer to the mid-morning lunchtime hour for the valley. But the winds are going to play a huge part in this next storm system for your Saturday, so do expect them to be anywhere from even up to 35 to 45 mile per hour gusts there, but ranging really about 30 to 40. But some spots could see some bigger flare ups. Now, rain, we're going to see about a quarter to a half-inch rain, and this is just Saturday's storm. It does end very early Sunday morning, about 1:30 a.m. So we're going to count it pretty much as a Saturday storm system here. Snow could be anywhere from about 6 to 10 inches, but the peaks could get as high as about a foot of snow with the first storm system. But it's really the second one we're going to really focus on after we get through Saturdays, because that one is really going to pack a punch for us, as it's going to be relentless. We're going to start seeing it move in on Sunday afternoon, continue through Monday, bringing very heavy rain and snow Monday. And then as it wraps back around that low pressure system, we do expect to see more of that heavy rain and snowfall coming in from Tuesday to Wednesday. Right now, though, check out this big low pressure system. You can see it swirling around there. It's a pretty big one, but it is tapping into this atmospheric river, pulling in all that moisture with it, as they have been doing all winter long. Now making its way through the Pacific Northwest. It's going to start pulling up more moisture for us into your Saturday morning. And then you're going to see pretty much the rest of your Saturday pretty wet out there. We're going to look at wet roads, potential for some areas of ponding on the roadways, as well as localized neighborhood flooding. Not a huge system Saturday, a decent one. Again, Sundays through Wednesdays, that is going to be the big one you want to watch out for. As we get a look at what's next, the quick moving storm Saturday is going to bring the strong wind gusts. So I would be a little more concerned with the winds at this point for your Saturday, especially when it comes to driving and dealing with rain hitting your windshield with those wind gusts. And then even if you had plans to head up toward the Sierra, your window is now through very early Saturday morning. After that, your pretty much shot is done, and you have one more shot early on Sunday before we start seeing things really pick up again. That small break's going to come Sunday morning, and it's really only going to be a matter of about 8 hours. So we're going to see the early morning hours till about lunchtime. And then the even bigger storm system, as mentioned, Sunday to Wednesday will bring inches of rain and feet of snow across California. Now let's track what we're seeing out there. We have a lot of cloud coverage. It looks like there might be some moisture out there, but it's really not falling. What we're looking at here is a lot of moisture sitting in the clouds, maybe a light drizzle if it kind of accumulates off the coastline there, but otherwise we're looking at mostly cloudy conditions. The flood watch is going to be in effect again from Sunday afternoon, evening until 10 a.m. on Wednesday for that excessive rainfall. And we could see really rising creeks, rivers, and streams also in local neighborhoods. I know we have a lot of those out there, but 1 to 3 inches of rain will be possible. And this is going to be a lot of rain in a short amount of time. Now, let's take a look at the winter storm warning. Most of this above 6,000 feet. This is where we're going to mostly see anywhere from 1 to about 2 feet of snow. But once we get to the peaks and the passes, we could see as much as 3 to 4 feet of snow from Sunday through Wednesday. So a lot to come with the accumulation of these two storm systems. We are expecting to see a very reduced visibility out there on the roadways. Doesn't matter which road you take or highway up, you may see delays or closures, especially along 80 and 50. And we will expect to see strong wind gusts, again, reducing that visibility out there. Looking at some of the wind gusts, just take a look. Out of the southeast here, we're looking at anywhere from 35 to 45 mile per hour gusts here up and down the valley, foothill spots, and even gets pretty strong for the high Sierra. And you're looking at Saturday evening where it peaks there, but we'll see it pick up even sooner. Saturday around lunchtime, you can expect some of the winds. Doesn't end there. We're looking at Sunday afternoon with the next storm system arriving, pulling in a lot of the strong winds once again out of the south and southeast there. And then we're going to expect to see strong wind gusts for the high Sierra and foothills for that Sunday portion of the storm, continuing to be pretty strong through Sunday night, and then finally continuing into, at least as we start moving through the next storm from Monday to Tuesday, Tuesday to Wednesday. Now, looking at the potential for the atmospheric rivers, as the low pressure systems move on shore, it's not necessarily the low that's the big issue here. It's how much moisture is it providing with the low. If it's not tapping into any major moisture source, we don't see all that heavy rain and snow. But it has been tapping into a lot of atmospheric rivers, a lot of warm water over the Hawaiian Islands there, producing that moisture as that heat rises, contains all that moisture and that river of moisture that's being sucked into the low pressure system. And it's moving onshore as we get into Saturday. You can see just here right off toward the west, there's that next low circulating. That is also getting ready to tap into some more moisture. As it begins to move in there, you can see kind of separates, a little divider. As this one starts to move to Southern California, we get hit with the next one right there in Northern California. But the thing is, Southern California doesn't get as much of a break from the two storm systems. This one's pretty much a 1-2 punch for them as it starts to move to Southern California Monday and Tuesday. Now, we'll also expect to see a lot of that heavy rain for us with the second system. And then there's one more pushing through potentially toward the following weekend. But at this point in time, a little hard to say exactly when. Looks like we may be looking at that following Monday. All right, let's take a look at our timing now. If you have things you need to get done this weekend, you want to pay attention here because this is where you're going to have your window of opportunity. We get into the early morning hours of Saturday. You have a little bit of time, especially if you're in these valley spots from Chico, Yuba City, all the way down to Modesto. But offshore, you see some of that rain beginning to push in. As we get to lunchtime, we're looking at about 11:30 a.m. noon is when we start to see our first signs of some showers, and then it's expected to get heavy there. As you can see some of these yellow areas here between Stockton and Modesto, also Fairfield. Pretty much by lunchtime, this is where it ends for you being outdoors. You're going to start to see a lot of this continually pushing through in the afternoon hours on and off, and then finally breaking up by around midnight to 1:30 a.m. or so. A few more spotty showers. Otherwise, the Sierra snow, notice how high that snow level is. We're looking around 6,500 to 7,000 feet, so very high snow levels for the first storm system. The second one may be dropping down into Tuesday morning to about 5,500 feet. Let's track our break on Sunday. We get to the early morning hours. We're doing decent. We have some time to get things done early in the morning. And then finally, as you look at 2 p.m., Fairfield starts to get their first sign of showers and then begins to move in for us after 2 p.m. We'll start to see more of those heavy and scattered showers. Just notice the oranges and the reds. That is intense showers. We could potentially see some thunderstorms as well moving into Monday. Please be careful out there, especially in the downpours. You just want to kind of stay inside for those. And then looking at the Sierra, you start noticing the snow line begins to drop just a little bit. We're going to see that into Monday morning and Tuesday morning as well. Again, could be as low as about 5,500 feet as instead of seeing what we were at now, 65 to 7,000 feet. Finally, passing on through, we'll see more heavy rain for your Monday and Tuesday, but potential for some of these rain totals. First storm system, a tenth to maybe a half inch if we get to that point. But then finally, we're going to look at as much as 1 to maybe 3.5 inches of rain potentially for the valley spots. And some of those foothill spots could get as much as 4.5 inches of rain, especially when you saw those oranges, those red colors. That's where they're getting some of the downpours, those big foothill spots. They get some of the intense showers, but not the snow. Yeah, that's the part that gets a little dangerous, especially if there's been any burn scars or anything left behind from some of those fires. You could potentially see some debris flows and a lot of water at one time. Looking at our snowfall totals, the first storm, anywhere from maybe 8 to 12 inches of snow, but really we're looking closer to about 8 inches or so. But then accumulation-wise from Saturday all the way through Wednesday morning, we could get as much as about 3 to 4 feet of snowfall. Now, tracking our Monday to Tuesday, just look how much rain pushes through in that period of time. There's pretty much no gaps in that. I mean, you might find your period of time here and there. When you see it, take the animals out to go to the bathroom and run back in because those are going to be our small windows that we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Otherwise, we'll see some sunshine moving into the latter half of next week. Now, looking at our forecast for your Saturday, about mid-50s out there to upper 50s, a low 60 there for Ione. Overnight lows are going to be decent, though, mid to upper 40s, so that's nice. At least you won't have to worry too much about freezing out there. But Bay Area looking at temperatures overnight in the low 50s. The Sacramento and San Joaquin Valley spots upper 40s and low 50s for the overnight lows. Daytime highs closer to about 60 degrees. The 10-day forecast, yeah, President's Day, that's on Monday. We're seeing these mid to low 60s pretty much for the entire week. We have 5 days ahead of rain, and you have a couple of small windows in between, as mentioned earlier, where you can get things done. Otherwise, as we start moving from Thursday on, that's where we start seeing partly sunny skies and temperatures in the mid 60s.